Hello my beauties, so I am starting off this tutorial without an intro. I am so sorry, I completely lost that footage, don't know what happened, and yeah, so we are doing the Manny MUA palette from Makeup Geek to create this beautiful eye look. So I'm taking the shadow Beaches and Cream to set my eye primer, which was the Julep mattifying eye primer, because you know I am obsessed with that eye primer. And I'm just setting that and placing it all over my eyes. It's very close to my skin tone. So now I'm taking the shadow Sora and I am applying this on my crease as a transition shade, and then I go in with the shadow Frappe just to deepen up the crease a little bit more, which is my all-time favorite transition shade. It's just stunning, at least for my skin tone, that is. So I'm taking the tiniest amount of Aphrodite and applying this on the crease as well. I barely took any shadow and you can see already how pigmented that is. So I go back and forth. I do lots and lots of blending just on this one eye, and I do add very little bit at a time, and all of these shadows really come together and just make a stunning transition crease shade, which you guys will see. Now I'm taking the shadow Mars, barely any again, and I'm applying this on the crease as well. Have lots of patience and do lots and lots of blending, but it is such a stunning color. Okay, so now I'm taking the star of the show, which is Insomnia, and I take a shader brush from Real Techniques and I start applying it by itself, and then I realize it's just not pigmented enough for me. So I take my MAC Fix Plus and I spray my brush, and then you see how much more intense it is, how beautiful it looks, and it looks like a foiled eyeshadow from Makeup Geek. It is absolutely stunning and it just really makes the eyes pop. So if you don't have any luck with this eyeshadow, try spraying some water or eye drops or something onto the brush after you have picked up the shadow, if that makes sense. Definitely try and pick up the shadow first so that you don't ruin your eyeshadow. So I am just cleaning up the crease a little bit. I don't have any excess product on my brush, and I'm just trying to blend these two shadows, or all of these shadows, together. So I'm taking an angled fluffy brush from Morphe that doesn't have a name, but I'm adding a little bit of Mars to my outer crease and outer V part just to intensify it a little bit. I do my lashes and my liner off camera, but I will explain that in a minute because I show it to you guys, so just hold tight. Okay, so I'm taking my my concealer from Becca, and this is Macadamia. I'm showing you guys that I use my pistachio to cover up my redness, and I also use my beauty blender to apply it. So to cover up the pistachio, I'm using macadamia because it is the closest to my skin tone, and I'm patting it in with the beauty blender. By me doing this, I'm not picking up that much product, I'm not moving the corrector around, and it's staying where I want it to stay. So I'm just doing the patting, stippling motion, not stippling, I think it's the patting motion, and just patting it in, covering up my pistachio. And I also don't want too much product because I do not want it to look cakey. So by the beauty blender, thankfully the beauty blender is great because it just doesn't pick up that much product. Okay, so here comes the violet. So I'm taking my beauty blender and I'm tapping the beauty blender into the violet. I want to place the violet on top of my concealer and all of that, because obviously I have the pistachio and the concealer because of my concerns, which is redness. Now, if you're not worried about redness, then obviously the only thing that you would be using Like say if you only are worried about dullness, you would only be using the corrector violet. So then you wouldn't even have to use the concealer at all. So hypothetically speaking, if I didn't have any redness at all and I just wanted to brighten up my face, I would only be using the corrector violet, and then I would be going in with my foundation. So you know, if you're only looking for one concern and your concern is dullness, use the violet and don't worry about covering it up with concealer. You can cover up the violet with your foundation. Gosh, I hope I'm making sense. I'm trying really hard to make sense. So I'm using my Aqua Luminous foundation to cover up, to do as my foundation. So I'm using a flat top kabuki brush from Sigma. So by me using this, I'm going to get the most coverage for my concern. If you want less coverage, use a beauty blender. If you want more coverage, use a dense brush. By me doing this, I have felt the happiest with how my complexion looks. The violet still shows through, but it shows through as brightening. It's not showing through as a purple corrector, if that makes sense. So I'm also doing the patting motion on my actual skin just because I don't want any of my correctors, any of my concealer, anything to budge. So now I'm taking my Becca concealer in Banana shade, also using my beauty blender, barely picking up any product, and just brightening up my eyes even more because you can tell I definitely have bags there. And I'm just doing the patting motion. You definitely don't want to rub it, and I feel like with the beauty blender I've gotten the best results because these concealers and these correctors are so pigmented and there's so much, you don't need that much product. I mentioned all of this in my reviews video from the Becca concealers and correctors, so I'll leave that link down below if you guys haven't seen that yet. But I go more into depth about it. So between this video and that one, hopefully I can answer any questions you guys might be having with these correctors and concealers. So again, I'm using my beauty blender just because I barely pick up any product and it's not going to be cakey. I feel that with a brush, like a concealer brush, you just pick up way too much product. So if you can't afford like a beauty blender, you don't want to pay the $20, go to Ulta or your drugstore and pick up a Real Techniques sponge, and those are amazing and it's basically the same thing. So I am just setting my concealer with my setting brush from Real Techniques. I did pat my concealer with the beauty blender just because, just to get rid of any kind of creasage or anything like that. And I do set a little bit of my foundation, mostly my T-zone, but I do go in a minute after I apply my contour. I do go in and set the rest of my face with the RCMA No Color Powder. Okay, so now I'm going in with the Becca concealer as well, and this one is Treacle. Now obviously I'm using a concealer brush because this is going to be easier for me to put the product exactly where I want it, being that I'm using it as a contour shade. If I use a beauty blender, it's going to get all over the place and it's just going to be a hot mess. I'm barely touching the product in the little concealer pot because this stuff is obviously way pigmented. I don't want my contour to be too heavy. I want more of a natural look, especially during summer. Yeah, you want to be glowy, you want to be bronzy and all of this, but you also don't want to be a cakey mess. So I do use my beauty blender to blend everything back where it needs to be blended, like in my hairline as you see at the moment. But I also don't want a lot of my makeup to smudge, and I feel like with a beauty blender it's not going to smudge like if I were to use a brush. Now I take my powder brush from Real Techniques just to set my whole face. Now I do my blush, my bronzer, and baking off camera just because the focus was more for my eyes, my lips, and my whole like foundation contour corrector routine. Now I used my Lorac Front of the Line Pro Liquid Liner to create my wing, and I do use my Benefits They're Real mascara to apply tons and tons of mascara because I don't have any falsies at the moment, so I just loaded up on mascara. So now I'm taking the Shadow Artemis and I'm applying that on my entire brow bone, and I also apply it in my inner tear duct. This is such a stunning shade. It is so beautiful, and it is even perfect for a highlight shade on your cheekbones. It looks really, really pretty on your cheekbones. I actually used it the other day, and it gave me a very intense highlight, so be careful if you do that. Okay, so now I'm taking the Shadow Sora with a pencil brush from Morphe, and I'm just applying it on my lower lash line because I then take the Shadow Mars and apply that over it. I kind of use Sora as a transition shade for underneath my lash line. I really like doing this when I apply intense colors just because it kind of helps blend the colors together. And I barely use any of the Mars to apply it to my under eye, to my lower lash line. And I am applying the Shadow Luna in kind of like my inner corner, but not in the inner tear duct, if that makes sense. And surprisingly, I used every single shadow except Cosmopolitan, which I thought was kind of funny. Okay, so now I'm taking a flat definer brush and I'm applying, what am I applying? I'm applying Aphrodite into the waterline. Now, it doesn't last very long, but it looks so beautiful. It didn't irritate my eyes or anything like that, but it looks absolutely stunning with this whole eye look. And I did do this look at nighttime, so I really don't know how long it lasted, but it definitely made the look kind of come together. So now I'm applying Peekaboo Neutral from NYX Cosmetics to line my lips and fill in. I absolutely love this lip liner. It is my all-time favorite, and I use Gerard Cosmetics Serenity, also created by Manny. I thought it was just appropriate to use it since I was using his palette, and it just brought the look together. I did not mean to make my lips match my top, but it kind of brings out my eyes, don't you think? I think it does. So that pretty much completes this look, guys. I do add a little bit of champagne pop to my cheekbones, my nose, and my Cupid's bow. I clean up any bakage, or actually all the bakage down there. And that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this look. I really had a lot of fun making this tutorial, or creating this tutorial for you guys. If you guys did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in my next video. Bye! Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing wonderful today. Today's video is going to be, if you haven't seen the title, it is the Becca Cosmetics review and demo of the targeted correctors and the 4 concealers. So if you guys are interested in seeing more, then please keep watching.